End of messages.
Hi there, it's The Green Show. I'm Jules in for Pete. Another hour of your green news. Oh yes, it's the Mispers. It's The Green Show on Source FM with Jules Powis in for Pete Maxted. You can email me at jules.thesourcefm@gmail.com. And today we are talking about marine conservation zones, more specifically the 7 new ones that have just been announced around Cornwall's coastline. That's the topic today. Britain's new blue belt of protected marine areas. I'll also be playing a short documentary I made about the Zoological Society of London's Edge project. In the meantime, here's Fleur East.
Give it to me! I met a boy last week trying to run that game. Made it sound so sweet when he say my name. I said, boys.
It's Fleur East with sax. You're listening to The Green Show. So Cornwall has gained greater protection after the government announced 7 new marine conservation zones for inshore and offshore waters around the county. Marine Environment Minister and Camborne MP George Eustace announced the sites as part of a new tranche of 23 marine conservation zones to be opened around the country, covering almost 20% of the waters around England. This is fabulous news, people. George Eustace said, as an island nation, the UK is surrounded by some of the richest and most diverse sea life in the world. He's not wrong. From the bright pink sea fan corals of the southwest coast to the great chalk stretches in the east, it's vital that we protect our marine environment to ensure our seas remain healthy. Our fishing industry remains prosperous and future generations can enjoy beautiful beaches, coastlines and waters. By designating these new marine conservation zones and creating a blue belt of protected areas around the country, we can better protect our environment through careful marine management in years to come. So, there will be 4 marine conservation zones around the Cornish coast. They will be at Mounts Bay, Runnelston, New Quay and the Gannel, Hartland Point to Tintagel, and 3 offshore at Western Channel, and the southwest of the Lizard, and the northwest of Jones Bank, and the Great Hague Fra, west of Land's End. 23 additional sites covering 4,155 square miles and bringing the total number of MCZs to over 50. These are the second of 3 planned phases. The first phase covered 3,731 square miles of water over 27 sites, while a third phase of proposed MCZs will be put out to wider public consultation in 2015 and designated in 2018. Ruth Williams, Marine Conservation Manager for the Cornwall Wildlife Trust, said, "We welcome today's designation of 23 marine conservation zones. UK seas have the potential to be full of incredible life and colour, but it's vital that we protect our marine environment to ensure that our seas and sea life can recover and prosper. Healthy seas are crucial for all of us, from the oxygen we breathe to the fish we eat, so this news is a fantastic step towards better protection and a healthier future for our seas. Without these incredible submerged landscapes, there wouldn't be any fish, let alone fantastic jewel anemones, seahorses, dolphins, brittle stars, amongst the other wild and extraordinary creatures which are part of our healthy marine ecosystem." We're having more on these marine ecosystems coming up before 4 o'clock. Right now it's Coldplay. Listening to The Source, 96.1 FM. It's The Green Show. And this is Jules Powis in for Pete Maxted. Now, a bit more on marine conservation zones, a bit of a backgrounder, because this is such a good and lovely story, and a big story for the future of our oceans. So what are they? Marine conservation zones protect a range of nationally important marine wildlife, habitats, geology and geomorphology, and can be designated anywhere in English waters. They were introduced to halt the deterioration of the UK's marine biodiversity and provide a legal means to deliver the UK's international marine conservation commitments. The announcement of 23 new marine conservation zones supports existing projects to protect the environment, as well as new consultations on special areas of conservation, SACs, for the harbour porpoise, and special protection areas, SPAs, to protect feeding and bathing areas used by iconic birds such as spoonbills in Poole Harbour and puffins on the Northumberland coast. And this adds to the 37 SACs and 43 SPAs already designated for English waters. So today, yesterday's now historic move illustrates a renewed impetus to protect our oceans and seas, and follows on from the announcement of 27 MCZs in 2013. This is the second of 3 phases promised by the government in order to fulfil the remit of the Marine and Coastal Access Act. The 23 new MCZs are special places in English seas and include cold water reefs, forests of sea fans, canyons and sandbanks, and an astonishingly varied range of submerged landscapes, which supports the stunning diversity of marine life to be found in the UK. They include Land's End, one of the southwest coast's most recognised areas, renowned for its rugged reefs and coastline, Newquay and Ganol, home to the rare fish, the giant goby, and all sites will contribute towards a network of areas which is urgently needed to ensure a healthy future for our seas. We'll be talking more about MCZs later and exactly why they're important. But coming up next, after this, we'll have a short documentary which I made about the Zoological Society of London's EDGE project, but that'll be after this. It's Jamie Lawson, and I wasn't expecting that.
It was only a smile, but my heart, it went wild. Then you closed your eyes, you took my heart by surprise. I wasn't expecting that.
As Jamie Lawson with I Wasn't Expecting That. It's The Green Show on Source FM with Jules Powis in for Pete Maxted. You can email me at jules.thesourcefm@gmail.com. Now, today we're mostly talking about the new marine conservation zones, but let's take a break from that. I'm going to play you a short, 10-minute short I made a year ago when I went to Regent's Park to interview some biologists. How you doing? It's The Green Show. First you heard Rudimental with Lay It All On Me featuring Ed Sheeran, and followed by Strange Juice with Jalapeno Sun. You're listening to The Green Show with Jules Powis in for Pete Maxted, and before Rudimental and Strange Juice you heard me talking to some biologists at the Zoological Society of London about their evolutionarily distinct and globally endangered project, the EDGE project. But today we're talking mostly about the 7 new marine conservation zones that have just been announced around the coastline of, the UK, but also Cornwall. I am going to come back with some reaction to the marine conservation zones from various people concerned. Okay, so the wildlife zones, most people have welcomed them, and the wildlife trusts have welcomed the designation of the reserves. Joan Edwards, head of the Living Seas at the Wildlife Trust, said, UK seas have the potential to be full of incredible life and colour, but continued destruction has reduced them to a shadow of their former selves. We are pleased by this government's commitment to addressing the decimation of our seabed over the past century and to delivering an ecologically coherent network of marine protected areas. This is a step toward completion of a blue belt in UK seas, crucial in turning the tide on the state of our seas, but there's still work to be done. However, designation and management are treated as a separate process. So, until bylaws or legislation have been put in place, then activities will continue to remain largely unchanged. Now, Paul Treblock from the Cornish Fish Producers Association has said, it's madness. A line has been drawn on a map, but there's no management plan in place, and no one knows what will and what will not be able to continue. He says the majority of fishermen rely on the marine environment being healthy to make a living. They have more interest in keeping it healthy than anybody else. To hear the government drawing a line and saying it's all fine doesn't inspire much confidence. Now, Sam Davis is Chief Officer for the Inshore Fisheries Conservation Authority. Her organisation will work with the Marine Management Organisation, the MMO, to find a way of managing these reserves. She said that the new boundaries didn't mean that one day you could take a boat in and the next day you couldn't. She said, we now need to fill the gaps. We are in the early stages of developing management for these areas, but we have to understand exactly what species are there. Most of the science has been done, but now it's looking at the really fine detail. That involves dropping a camera down there. Tyne Conservation and Policy Officer from the Whale and Dolphin Conservation Society said the marine conservation zones are brilliant, but that some sites vital for the protection of whales and dolphins have been left off the list. 14 sites, he said, were taken out without consideration. According to the Marine and Coastal Access Act 2009, the government has to establish a network that protects species, not just habitats, in UK seas. So, this isn't creating a coherent ecological network. More on that later. This is Calvin Harris. Calvin Harris, how deep is your love? You're listening to The Green Show, 96.1 FM. I'm Jules, in for Pete Magstead. I'll be back next week.
It's a little blurry how the whole thing started. I don't even